I'm going to meet with a bunch of dudes that are doing quality control, and I was thinking about it, and I'm like, a few years ago, I would have been super pissed. Not even a few years ago, man. Probably maybe a year ago. I used to get super butthurt when anybody came out to the job site to like tell me what I was doing wrong. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
go ahead.
yeah. The reason people get butthurt when QA guys show up, whether it's safety, whether it's quality control, whether it's your boss, whether it's somebody who does scheduling and comes out to check to make sure that you're on scheduling for your company, is because construction is full of type A personalities. And when you are a type A personality and you're put in a position where you're running the show on a job site, I don't want to say you get a God complex, but you start to, you're the boss. And if you take it seriously and you put, your effort and everything into what you're doing, when somebody comes out there to point out flaws or mistakes, you get super butthurt about it. Like, and you take it personally. Like, they just showed up on my job site to critique my work. They don't know, and if they could do it, they'd be here doing it. But the reality is, you're only getting butthurt like that because of the pride and, I'm going to say it, arrogance.
Well, you know what? I don't think so, because I mean, I thought part of it for me was always, I'm so busy, especially if you're in a production atmosphere, or even if you're not, you're building apartments, you're building whatever. You're so busy. You have so many tasks you're completing every day, every hour. You've got so many people running around. And then all of a sudden somebody shows up and they're like, hey, man, these two nails are 7 inches apart instead of 6. You're a failure. And it's like, F you. That was always my attitude. Like, who are you?
So, well, yeah, and that goes right back to my point. Who are you to come on my job site? Even though your sole purpose in your job is to make sure that we're building things correctly, who are you to show up and tell me I made a mistake?
Yeah.
I mean, that screams arrogance to me.
Well, maybe it is, but I mean, so it's funny. But now, when I really look at it, and I don't know if I'm just getting mature or just old or what, but now I've kind of switched how I view it, because I guess I've seen enough. I've seen the repercussions of building assemblies that weren't done properly. That now I look at it as an extra set of eyes. I've completely changed the way I view quality control. Or even like just your boss coming out and saying, "Hey, this should be like this, or this should be like that," as just an extra set of eyes and helping me produce a better product. Because I think at the end of the day, nobody's going to remember, hey, somebody came out and corrected something you did, but they're going to remember a finished product that's, defect free.
Right. So let me pose this to you. Perhaps it's not that you, perhaps the thing that's changed your view on the QA/QC guys is that you are now in a different position. You're in a position where you are not just overseeing your guys that oversee the daily construction operations, but you're also involved in the warranty and the problems that arise after the fact. So now, rather than just being concerned about getting it done and meeting your deadlines, now you have to, a portion of your time is taken away, and you have to deal with items that come up after the build is complete.
I mean, that could be.
And then you can see mistakes that were made, and you're like, we should have caught that.
It could be.
Or maybe we did, but, your construction manager, your superintendent, whatever, was like, I don't have time to fix that, or it's not wrong in my opinion, so I'm not going to fix it, or whatever, whatever the reasons may be.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what's changed your opinion on quality assurance.
Honestly, no, I think it's kind of like bragging rights, man, because I want to, I mean, that might be part of it, because I do see the numbers, but, part of it is I want any project that I'm associated with to be 100%, to be perfect. I want people to be like, damn, those guys know how to build something. That product is perfect. There's no defects, there's no such thing as no defect. Yeah, I get that. But, as close as we can get it, you know what I mean? And there is a difference between, a couple of nail pops versus, hey, we're going to rip the front of this building off because there's moisture getting behind it.
Right. Yeah, you didn't do a water test on your your 3M roof, and the thing leaks, and not only are we going to have to pay for all the damage, but the roof manufacturer's not going to warranty because you didn't water test it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So it's funny. So I'm actually going way out of my way today to spend time with quality assurance guys. And not every builder has. We were talking about this yesterday. Not every builder has their own quality assurance department that goes from job to job looking at stuff. So I mean, it can just be when your manager comes out. If you are able to not look at it as criticism, I mean, it always depends on how they come out. If your manager comes out and is like, "Hey, dummy, this is wrong. You're stupid," which I've seen that kind of management in the past. But if they come out and they're like, "Hey, this is how this was supposed to be assembled. You need to deconstruct this and reconstruct it the proper way so we can avoid, costly repairs in the future." As long as if you can just not take offense to that and just look at it as, "Oh man, I appreciate you catching that for me." I think any superintendent or construction manager, whatever's entire outlook on, quality, constructive criticism, quality assurance, that sort of thing, is going to change. Because I know dudes that even when their local building inspectors come out, they just want to fight with them. And I'm like,
oh yeah, absolutely.
What are you doing?
Absolutely.
You need that guy. I mean, if they're just blatantly wrong, because there are some building inspectors I know that have, none that are listening. Those guys are all super smart. But there are some that go out and they're unreasonable just to be unreasonable.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's been my experience, for the most part, these guys are they just want to make sure that you're building a good quality product for the customer, because...
Well,
go ahead.
Don't get me wrong. Some guys will come out to a job site to do quality inspections, and some of them, come up with some really ridiculous items, things that aren't going to be able to be constructed in an efficient manner, and they want, it happens. So, sometimes they're unreasonable, and it happens. And I will argue all day long that if you can prove with actual facts and you can quantify it that a QA/QC guy is incorrect in what they're trying to get you to do, that they will amend what they're looking for. But you have to be on top of your game. You have to be able to prove it, and you have to be able to really quantify why.
Yeah.
So, but I always go right back to, and I'm guilty of it as well, in my younger years, it's an arrogance. Who are you to tell me how to build something? If you could do it, you'd be here doing it instead of just showing up every once in a while and critiquing everybody's work. When reality is, you cannot catch everything, no matter how good of a super or, construction manager you are. You cannot catch everything. And that's just a fact.
I was thinking about that the other day because I was annoyed about the results of some inspections, and I thought to myself, so I spend my day looking at everything, at buildings, at infrastructure, at budgets. I spend it. It's so varied. My day goes from literally looking at spreadsheets to looking at studs. And it's and there's a lot. And I thought about it, and I was like, here's it. If your company is lucky enough and prosperous enough to have their own QA people, those guys, their sole focus is to look at details. That's all they do all day long. They look at details and they compare them to what's in the field.
Yep.
And that level of scrutiny is really it's awesome. Because I don't have time to study the details like that. So if they come out and I just start arguing with them, "Oh, you're wrong," I had better had studied that detail and know exactly what I'm looking at in the field if I'm going to start arguing with somebody whose whole existence is to study details.
Yeah, and typically when a company commits to a quality assurance program, they're not pulling guys out of the field to work in that department that suck. You know what I mean? They're pulling guys out that they have faith in, that pay attention to the details, that are already savvy, with what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're not pulling the guy who can't get it done out and saying, "Hey, what we're going to have you do? Now we're going to have you oversee quality because you've done such a bang-up job." Like that's not how it works. So 9 times out of 10, the guys that are coming out know what they're looking at. So, and it's not just quality assurance guys. It can be anybody. It can be your structural engineer coming out to inspect the product to make sure that you built it per their design, or the architect coming out to do a walk for a draw, and says, hey, I'd love to pay for all this stone, but it's all installed incorrectly.
Yeah.
Everybody is out there looking. Nobody's out there just to try to make themselves feel better. They're working on behalf of someone, whether it's the client, whether it's the builder themselves, whoever. And they're all out there trying to make the product as good as it can possibly be. Nobody's out there trying to sabotage a product. And if they are, they won't last long.
Right.
So,
I remember a time, this is in like 2004, 2005, something like that. I was building these huge, there were townhomes, there were 4,500 square foot townhomes. And we actually had the drywall on the exterior wall of the end units they were part of the structure. They were part of the structural details of the building, right? So the screw pattern was literally like every 6 inches there had to be a screw in the stud, whatever. And yeah. I remember my building inspector came out, and at the time we had our engineer would come out and do quality walks as well. So my building inspector comes out, and he pulls his tape measure out, and he's like, "This drywall is all wrong." And he's like, "Not only is it all wrong, you're gonna pull it down because in order to get the screws where they need to be, they're gonna be too close together, and you're gonna lose the structural integrity of this drywall." And I was like, structural integrity of the drywall? And I went to war with this dude. I'm like, you're out of your mind. What are you talking about? Blah, blah, blah. Then he's like, well, you failed until you fix it. And he, storms off after we finished screaming at each other. Then like the next day or 2 days later, my engineer comes out and he goes, oh, hey, Damien, hey, these screws are, this whole screw pattern is wrong. And I said, what are you talking about? And he goes, yeah, this drywall. And he explained it. He's like, this is part of the structural stability, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, my God. I just went to war with my building inspector because I was too arrogant or too dumb to really to even go to the details and see if he was even right. I just assumed he was an idiot and went on with my day. Yep. So, I had to call that building inspector back and kiss his ass basically to get him to come back out and re-inspect after I replaced all the drywall.
Yeah, man, I got a product right now where we have 4 different screw patterns.
That's crazy.
And I tell you, one other thing that the structural engineer had us do, because we were pouring Gypcrete, we were taking away some of the bottom plate, so we had to put blocks in between every single stud bay to ensure that drywall got screwed at the bottom. And I'll be honest, you go to most jobs, they aren't screwing the bottom unless it's inspected.
Right.
And if it wasn't for my structural engineer inspecting it, we never would have done that. And it's a better product because of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, these details are not by accident. It's not because...
they're not by accident. Not just because.
Yeah, it's not because somebody's sitting around being like, what would be funny?
Yeah, let's waste a bunch of money.
Yeah. So I think it's super important that the guys building stuff realize that it's not just criticism. There's a reason people are pointing out the details and pointing things out and saying, hey, this is the way this needs to be done. And I hate to say it, man, but sometimes you got to deconstruct so you can go forward. But it will 100% save time, money, and a lot of stress down the road if we're able to embrace the and I don't want to keep calling it criticism because it's really not. But if we can just embrace the an extra set of eyes, I think it makes for a better construction manager or superintendent or project manager or whatever you want to call them.
Well, and it makes for a better product. I mean, there's lawyers all across this country that are getting rich because of construction projects that weren't built correctly. So, go look at California. I don't think you can buy a house if you don't have a lawyer involved, or go down to Florida. The lack of hurricanes is starting to uncover tremendous flaws with the construction. So,
what?
I know that sounds weird, but, if a hurricanes come through and destroy everything every couple of years, the long-term effects of poor construction are never known. But when you stop having those hurricanes for, a prolonged period of time, actual defects will surface.
Yeah.
So,
what's funny? I just watched a video on SIPs, which are structural insulated panels.
Insulated panels.
Yeah. And, there's concrete I believe it's in the center of the SIP. Or Maybe it wasn't a SIP. Actually, maybe it was a.
Yeah, there's no concrete in the center.
I think it was a. What is it? ICP. I forget. Insulated concrete panel. I think I forget. But they showed a neighborhood where one house, all custom homes, one house was built with these panels, insulated concrete panels. Oh, a hurricane went through. It was the only house standing.
Oh, I'm sure.
I was like, damn. They show this. This has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but they show this whole neighborhood. And I was like, holy crap, look at that. And I'm just thinking to myself, man, my next house, maybe I'll build it with that. And I was like, nah.
Yeah.
I don't live in Florida.
you know, as long as we're telling sea stories, I got a video, and you may remember, I got a video maybe a year or two ago. Someone I know, her neighbor moved into a new home, and there was a windstorm, and they were videotaping the cracking that was happening where their horizontal and vertical drywall seams came together in the corners of their ceilings during this windstorm. And, I was like, oh, my God, that's incredible. I mean, you could watch it in real time every time the wind blew. And what the problem was, the roof system was getting uplift because no one nailed on the hurricane ties. So when they cut all the drywall out the very next day, the builder came out and obviously was concerned. So they came out and they cut all the drywall away and realized there was no nails.
Damn.
So a good quality guy would have caught that. Or
a building inspector?
Building inspector, construction manager, I mean, everybody missed it.
How did they they attached them to the trusses, but they never nailed them to the exterior walls?
They toenailed them in, but they didn't actually put any nails in their Simpson ties.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
so, I mean,
wow, that sucks.
It's rare. I like to think that that's a rare occurrence, but I watched the video. It was nuts.
You're going to send that to me. Do you still have it?
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
All right, cool. So